Good afternoon. Good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to Pinhole Quilting. I say warm because is it really May? We have to ask ourselves that question. So welcome to Pinhole Quilting. I'm Liz Holpin. My husband Pete is the other side of this camera. And we welcome you to a session of Facebook Live. Now, we haven't been on Facebook Live for a little while for various reasons. Last Friday, we were deep in feathers territory. I've got one of the examples behind. I'll show you in a bit the other one, which Helen Burnham did. And we had it was like quilting with friends. And if they weren't friends at the beginning, we were all good friends by the end. And it was a lovely, lovely day. So thank you to everybody who came to the Feathers Workshop with Helen Burnham. And I hope that you got out of it what you intended and that you feel more confident with feathers now and perhaps a little bit more informed on what a feather is. So we've got more classes coming up later in the year. Now, because we've got a couple of new people starting with us, the second person, Katie, joins us next week. And Michelle joined us. Welcome, Michelle, to Pinhole Quilting a couple of weeks ago, and she's been doing some work with Mark actually on servicing and some checks and things that we do before we dispatch machines. And Katie's joining us next week, and we're thrilled about it because we feel that it's another step in our Pinhole Quilting journey, and we should be able to get some of those things done that perhaps sometimes, like the classes, getting them online, that we haven't done so far. So we look forward to welcoming those new employees to Pinhole Quilting. Right, what is on the agenda today? Apart from me having a very nice cup of warming coffee because it's so cold. It's 11 degrees and it's mizzle. It's absolute mizzle out there, so we're not really enjoying it very much. But we were up in Scotland earlier this week. Let's just have a little recap of our week, shall we, Pete? And just say hello to a few of those people who have had their machines serviced, and to Adele, who's had her Infinity with Pro Stitcher installed this week in a lovely, enormous she shed in her garden, and it looks fantastic. And the Infinity with Pro Stitcher lies at right angles to the Amara, and so she's got two beautiful machines there, which no doubt she's been on whenever she can, in between working and stuff. So anyway, we hope that everything is working well with the machines and that you're enjoying your new Infinity. We also saw a couple of other people when we were up. Well, we saw Pauline Burbage, which is always lovely. It's like going to Pauline and Charlie's in the borders of Scotland at Allenton. It's Allenton Millsteading is their house. And it's like being dipped in a creative pot, because you just feel like as soon as you walk onto the grass that surrounds their converted buildings, which is beautiful old barn buildings, stone, and there's a lovely little shepherd's hut as well. Everything is there. It's kind of it's like a curated living, if I feel. How do you feel about it, Pete? You got your Michael?
I absolutely love visiting Pauline and Charlie's place because you can't help but be inspired, really, by all the creativity that is around you. I mean, in their kitchen, in their bathrooms, you're just surrounded by homemade art, and it is fabulous.
It is. Every time we go, Pete, I kind of think, we need to do this at home. We really do, but we're not Charlie and Pauline. So obviously our level would be slightly different. But, oh my goodness, absolutely loved, and I put it on a little reel on Facebook, some of the things that Pauline has been working on for a long time. She had a project which is dedication. It's a quilt for Hugo Burge, one of their friends who sadly passed away last year, and it's absolutely beautiful quilt based on a tree. And what I absolutely loved about it, which it doesn't come across in the pictures because you needed to sort of be there to see the dimensionality of the quilt, which was there's this blue, which is basically sort of specially treated fabric that when you put something on it and then you expose the whole thing to the sun, the bits that aren't exposed to the sun go blue. Yeah, Pete's laughing. I want to know why he's laughing. Why are you laughing, Pete?
I'm laughing because the first person online this afternoon was Carolyn Clark.
Oh,
And Carolyn wrote, "Hello, Liz, have missed you." And then quite a few minutes later said, "Hello, Pete, have missed you too." Thank you, Carolyn. That's very kind of you.
that is. Thank you, Carolyn.
I'm still here.
Order of priority.
So let's say hello, shall we, to a few
Okay,
people?
let's say hello to a few people.
So, Carolyn, hello.
Hello, Carolyn. And Carolyn did a fabulous job last week on our foundation and rulers and fills workshop.
And second person online is Helen.
Oh, it's Helen.
Helen
Here we
Burnham.
go.
So this is one of the sample pieces that Helen did for her feathers class. It's just fantastic.
It is. And in fact, one of the people who came said that the photograph doesn't really do the panel or the quilting justice, and I think that's absolutely the case. I mean, one thing that I found having the panel for both the rulers and fills and the feathers class was how useful the panel was. Absolutely brilliant for teaching the class. And it just means that you've got something that looks beautiful, and you know, before you've even quilted it, people love the colours and things. They're kind of my favourite colours. Oh, look, and I've got the colours on. I've got a green necklace.
You're coordinated
and my purple jumper. Look at that. This was from my lovely friend Debbie. It's got amethyst in it, a green peridot, and I forgot what the other one is. Beautiful, which she lovely Debbie. My lovely friend Debbie. And this one as well, which is actually the one we practiced on because it's got the straights and the curves.
Let me get a bit of a close-up on that.
Okay. Yeah, Helen did a beautiful job on these.
Just to show you, I'll try and get the lighting on it so that
and
these
the
things
variety,
show up.
here's the thing, you know, variety of thread.
Look at the different...
Metallic in the middle on that straight coming up from the centre.
Yeah, this one's metallic here. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Just showing the sort of the different styles of feathers that you can do. So we will be having a feathers and whole cloth workshop later in the year with Linda Jackson in September. And as I said, we'll be getting those online soon. That will be, I'm sure, a class that will be in high demand. So teaching really how to do something like the quilt behind that Linda did. And I'd like to say she'd gifted to us, but I think we do have to return it, Pete. It's just been it's been resident in our showroom for a little while, because I think, where was it? It was hanging up somewhere, and we brought it back here. We didn't steal it, honestly. We didn't steal it. It's like Carol's as well. Carol wasn't very well at Festival of Quilts on the last day, so she couldn't collect the quilt off the stand. So we seem to have had it ever since, Carol. But we will give it back to you, promise. All right, anybody else?
Elizabeth Dunkley.
Oh, hi, Elizabeth.
We took some finding today. Yes, we probably did.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. We've been away, and I had to do some things this morning. So I literally got back about 2:15.
And Katie's online. So Katie, hope you're prepared for your career change coming up. Look forward to seeing you on Tuesday.
Yes, I've already mentioned that Katie will be joining us on Tuesday. And we've got some exciting training lined up for both Katie and Michelle next week. And more details about that will be announced in due course.
Yes, a load of boxes have just arrived in the warehouse.
Exciting. Boxes. It's like Christmas. Katie, Michelle, we're going to be unboxing next week.
And Joe Pike. Hello, Joe.
Oh, hi, Joe. Hi, Joe. Joe's got the Joe's got the capri.
Carol's online as well. Yes, Carol. You will get your quilt box.
You will get your quilt box. Promise. Okay.
Karen Hughes from Wigan.
Oh, yep. Hi, Karen.
Yep. And Jenny James. Jenny, nice to talk to you this morning. Glad you've now got everything sorted. I know these things take a while. And yeah, Carolyn, that is stunning, isn't it? The sample piece that Helen has done.
It's such a good reference, you know, for explaining the different styles of feathers as well. So yeah, we'll do some close-ups and put them on so you can buy the panel. You can buy the panel. Either panel. There's two panels, panel 1 and panel 2. Perfect practice panel. Well, practice doesn't have to be perfect, but it's a perfectly good way of doing practicing. So you get half that.
So Yvonne Tuck says, beautiful, something to aspire to. You're absolutely right, Yvonne. But I think the thing that we see with feathers in particular is come to a class. It's amazing how much you can learn as to how to approach practicing feathers if you come to a class.
Yeah, agreed. Okay.
Okay,
All
and Pauline Droy Moore. Hi, Pauline.
Oh, hi, Pauline.
And
so...
And Sheena Stubbs.
Hi, Sheena.
Right.
You haven't been able to get out in the garden, Sheena. This disastrous weather. Right.
We're off to a wedding tomorrow, aren't we? So let's hope the weather improves for that.
Down in the southeast. We've covered the country today then. So we did, this week rather, we did Scotland, the borders. We were just over the border, over the Tweed. And then we went to Newcastle. And then we went to Yorkshire. And then we came home. We got home late last night. So that was good. That was really good. Right. What are we talking about?
What are we talking about today?
What are we talking about? Pete, today we're talking about maintenance. Maintenance. And it comes up partly because of some of the things that happened on our visits. So little sort of, every now and then, you know, things happen on our visits and we think, oh, yeah, that would be good to explain to people. Can't get rid of that little oily bit there. Don't really want it on me. Right. So we're going to go through a few basic maintenance things and a few things that we haven't covered on our videos previously. So listen up, everybody. There may be some little tips and techniques in here that could be useful to you too. We hope so. Right. Shall we start? Shall we start with the carriage? Shall we start over here? Is that all right?
As you wish.
I fancy starting over here. So let's talk about the carriage. Pete has very kindly brought in a Moxie carriage and a Pro Stitcher carriage. So these are, can you see these? Right. So these are the two different carriages. You'll see that these are upside down, okay, just to explain. And we've got a Moxie carriage and a Moxie XL carriage, has 4 wheels, held in place with a bolt that goes right through here. 2
at Liz's end,
okay.
2 at this end.
And it's a funny size bolt. I'm not going to suggest adjusting these wheels because they used a strange size bolt, didn't they? Do you remember? It's an Imperial.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, that's
it
right.
Is.
It's a funny one.
Anyway, what you need to do, you don't have to take this off the carriage to do this. You can actually do this at the side of the wheel as you're running it along the carriage. When you're running it along the carriage, if you could hold it in place and just rotate the wheel like this with a piece of excess wadding that you might have from a quilt.
You see there's a bit of muck in the middle.
Yeah, it's kind of shiny, and if it gets left long enough, in combination, now this is the oil end, so this is where the front of the Moxie will sit. It sort of sits here, goes backwards and forwards. You're oiling the Moxie. Lots of fluff, lots of lint gets dropped down, combines with the oil, and then can make this bit much worse than the back wheels, which are easier to access. So make a habit of cleaning these wheels. If it looks like it's got white in there, which this one has got the start of it, you've got quite a lot of things in there. You need to either use the wadding or you might need a bit of water just to loosen it. But actually, because it's not too bad, it's not too encrusted at the moment, we can just use the wadding and get rid of it. You will notice the difference on your free motion quilting when you get rid of it, honestly. So I'm just going to clean this one up, make it really nice and shiny. There we go. Right, those should run, pretty free, all of them. This is the encoder at the back. There shouldn't be any dings or anything in that encoder rubberized wheel. When you put it back on, make sure that the encoder is not too tight. So this is obviously, it's upside down, 180 degrees, the wrong way around. So when it drops onto the frame, you should find that drops easily. Sometimes this bolt here is too tight. And if you're not getting side to side stitch regulation, so that's your X, you might find that that's too tight. Loosen it off a fraction so that it can definitely drop down and it's nice and free. That will help your X stitch regulation. Anything else you want to mention on the carriage of the Moxie, Pete?
Do you just want to turn it over?
Sure.
I don't think there's much that needs to be done on the other side.
No, oh no, there is
But
a bit there, isn't there?
But the Moxie carriage, being a 4-wheel carriage, it's a bit different from the 8-wheel carriage that we'll look at next.
So in essence, this here needs to be as smooth as possible. So you don't, again, want any lint build-up on this. You don't want to get any dings on it. So I'm just checking. I mean, when we move these on and off the frames, obviously, you know, that can, when we take them to shows, we try and get it so these don't get any marks, because you'll notice it. It's like the Princess and the Pea. You will notice even a very small amount of thread on the frame. If you run over it with this carriage, this will be quite bumpy, actually. Surprisingly so.
Talking of shows, Karen's asked if we'll be at the Malvern Quilt Show.
We're going to be at the Malvern Quilt Show shortly. Thank you for that question, Carolyn. We will be there middle of May every year. Pretty much. It's 14th.
From the 16th to the 19th of May.
That'd have been early. 16th to the 19th of May at the Malvern Three Counties Showground. Lovely quilt show. I've been going since 1995. Wow, that'll be 30 years next year. That's quite a long time. And it's a lovely quilt show. We enjoy going to the Malvern show. There's lots of people who come and visit, and there's easy car parking. And it's usually we get a day of rain, a day of sunshine, and a bit too hot every now and then. So it's a lovely place to come to.
So lots of machines for you to come and try if you're interested in a long arm. We will be taking some accessories, but not all. There isn't enough room at the Malvern show. If there is anything specific that you want us to take, then please email us in advance rather than be disappointed when you get there.
Yeah, definitely if that's the case with some thread. Well, somebody already emailed last week and said, I'd like to colour match, and it's really difficult to do it on the screen. So if you haven't got a glide shade card, which is quite a good way of doing it, but even so, if you want us to bring certain colours, then definitely email us. Are we going to set anything up on the website for pick up at the show?
Yeah, we can do that.
We could do that, couldn't we?
Yep.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that. So
makes it nice and easy then.
Yeah, it does. So that you don't have to pay postage. All right, so look out for that on the website. Now we're going to move on to studio frame carriages like this one, which is for an Amara. Are basically an 8-wheel carriage. So these wheels are angled. They're a little different to the Moxie. And oh, there it is. So what I just want to share with you here, thanks Pete. Yeah, you're going to just,
yes, I've just had a question from Karen about having trouble with long stitches when crossing the width of the quilt. Karen, if you've got the Moxie, I'm trying to remember which machine you have, but if you have Hughes, then it will almost certainly be to do with the encoder. And now that this is the right way up, so this is how it will look on your frame, you want to be able to see that rear encoder dropping down. If you lift it up with your finger there, it should drop down freely onto the track. If it doesn't, you need to just slightly loosen this bolt until it drops freely, and that will probably solve your problem.
A second thing you could look at, Karen, is this is the encoder cable for the Moxie, and sometimes it looks like it's in, but it's not. You need to make sure it's all the way in. So it might just be making a poor connection. Take them out both ends and make sure it's plugged in all the way.
Yeah. If you do both those things, it will solve the problem in most cases. If it doesn't, then give us a call.
Okay, now this machine here has been used, hasn't been cleaned for a while. So I'm just going to run through a couple of things that I would do, certainly on when we do our sort of every 2 years we maintain the machines more frequently if it's used for quilting professionally. We tend to do those every year. And these wheels can be removed. Now, the first thing to note is really how much lint, etc., there is on the front of this.
Well, let's just have a look at some of these wheels here. So this one machine has come in from a customer.
Yeah.
It's looking fairly grubby, as you can probably see. I'm not talking about Liz.
I'm all tidy.
There we go.
Here we go. So that can be undone. And that's not too bad. Sometimes when you take this off, there is thread wrapped around the wheels. Okay, so the wheels, obviously if there's an awful lot of thread wrapped around, that can stop the wheels running freely. So what we do is just wipe that with some wadding or a tissue and then put that back on, noting that there is a correct way round for this. This wheel has a flatter side, the other side is more proud.
Let me just try and show you that. If I look at this side on, you'll see that one side of the wheel is much more pronounced than the other. So that's the flat side, and this is the pronounced side that sticks out more. And it's the pronounced side, when you put this back, that has to be against the carriage itself.
Yeah.
That's the correct way around.
Because basically it's giving it freedom away from the edge, from the white of the carriage to move. Okay, so I'm just going to tighten that up. Can I just do this one as well? Because I thought
you only really need to do this if you've got some thread caught around the wheel, which can happen quite easily.
I think sometimes people don't even realise, because this is again the least accessible of the wheels end. This is where the front of the machine runs, and there we go. There's some thread, very fine thread. You can see there. I'm just going to wipe that. And also, of course, it's the opportunity to just check the quality and, you know, whether there's any problems with the wheel itself. I mean, sometimes they do get, after a number of years of use, they do get worn. And there is thread wrapped around the nut as well. So get rid of that.
So this is the carriage that exists on the Studio 1 frame, the Studio 2 frame and the Studio 3 frame, and indeed the Littlefoot frame in most cases. You have one of these 8-wheel carriages. So at each corner you've got 2 wheels which sit on the track, 4 corners, 8 wheels.
Yeah, so a couple of other things that we do is we clean out these cogs. This isn't too bad, but I normally brush out. Sometimes there's quite a lot of lint on these.
So those of you with Pro Stitcher.
Yeah. Yes, that applies obviously to both Pro Stitcher and non-Pro Stitcher. This is a Pro Stitcher carriage upside down. More recent versions have got this steel plate on. With some others, you actually see the internals of the board that lives underneath here. There is a cog and belts that drives the machine side to side. There's a cog and belts that drives the machine front and back. And it's important, in fact, I can see with this one, I've got some, would you be able to get my tweezers, do you think, Pete? My tweezers from my toolkit. Yeah, that's quite tight. So, yeah, I mean, the kind of thing we just check tightness of belts and things like that when we're doing the maintenance. But I just removing that, again, there's just a build-up of some lint. What happens, though, okay, so this cog, imagine it up the other way, is I'm going forward and back and quilting over here, basically. So what can happen is, if you don't pull up your bobbin thread, if you just cut them and let the bobbin thread drag down, or even have a loose bobbin thread that you've sort of run along and you've cut, maybe basted it, and then you've cut it and the thread pulls down to the underside, you can't see where it is. What can happen is it wraps around this cog. If there's so much wrapped around that cog, it can really sort of stop this cog from turning. I mean, I just removed a very small amount there. I can see there's another bit there. It's not too bad, but that is going to cause problems if there's a lot of it. I've only had one situation ever where it had literally stopped the cog from turning. And as you can probably imagine, that's not a good situation, but it puts unnecessary strain on the motor, and you do not want to have a motor not working because it's got burnt out, which it could happen. My advice to you is, in fact, I did see Kim Sandberg on one of the Pro Stitcher demonstrations show that she does this. So what she does is, if she cuts the thread, she'll go along, she'll make sure that she's pulled the bobbin thread all the way through at its source, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. So that you don't have long threads dangling down underneath the quilt that are going to wrap around that cogwheel. Okay, the other thing that we do is This here is in contact with the blue Pro Stitcher track. So again, this is really for Pro Stitcher and Pro Stitcher Lite customers. The blue Pro Stitcher track, and what you get is a little mouse suddenly appears in your machine if you have plastic against plastic. So what we do...
what Liz means by that is that your machine will start squeaking. So you get a little squeak each time you move your machine around, and that's usually when these two cogs have got dry and the nylon is squeaking against itself.
Yeah.
So solution is
silicone spray. So wrap up around it, okay, and what I normally do is just put a little bit on this cogwheel.
So silicone spray acts as a lubricant and it will stop your mousy squeak.
It does sound like you've got a little mouse in it, honestly.
Just a general comment.
Yeah.
Here we're talking about the carriage off the machine, off the frame. Now, please take care. First of all, the machines are heavy. Secondly, you must ensure that all the cables are disconnected from the carriage and from everything else before you take the machine off the carriage. Otherwise, you'll end up tearing the cables. And then you can take the carriage off. But these things are quite heavy, particularly on the Pro Stitcher Premium machines.
They are. Yeah. So let's just flip it over. Just look at the top of this. Okay, this is the angle at which you're normally looking at the Pro Stitcher carriage. So on this particular version, which, this is actually the most recent version, it has numbers and little LED lights on the top with numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which mean various things in terms of the communication between the machine and the carriage. So, for example, some of these tell us that the machine is making signals and sending them to the carriage, others just that the motors are working, etc. So that's pretty important, useful, very useful little lighting there. They aren't on the earlier versions of the Pro Stitcher. So what we would do here is, this has got like a bit of stickiness on it, and you use this as well, don't you? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what we use is sticky stuff remover, which we get from, well, we get on the internet, don't we, I think? But,
yeah.
But basically, I used to get it from Lakeland. This has got a really sticky patch here. It looks like something was taped to it at one point. So I would just rub that on there. It's perfectly fine on this aluminium. Yeah, some really sticky bits there. You don't want sticky bits on your carriage. So just get rid of that. It's a little bit sticky. Amazing. Oh, that's okay. Right, so anything like that, and then we're back to polishing it. I mean, one thing that I know, we talk to a lot of quilters, and having a methodology about your maintenance might be a good idea. For example, I know some people, when they've finished a quilt, they religiously clean up the wheels, clean up the track, and it's all ready for next time. I mean, that's nice. That's a nice way of doing it. It means that you know that when you finished your quilt, you're ready to start the next one. So that's quite good. Okay, anything else on the carriage, Pete? Or do you think that's pretty much covered it?
No, you've got the silicone spray to put on the top cog as well, of course.
So
this is the gear that moves the machine. And again, the squeak can be coming from this, so also need to put silicone spray on here. Liz is using the tissue just to make sure that the spray doesn't get everywhere. So we don't supply all these sprays. Silicone spray is easily available from DIY stores, Screwfix, places like that. And sticky stuff remover, I think, is pretty widely available now as well.
Yeah, and as I say, I mean, I've bought it in the past from Lakeland. Just give it a little wipe and get rid of the dust in here. That's just so with me. There we go. I'm all done. So our carriage is now clean and ready to go.
So that's what applies to people with movable machines who have carriages and frames.
Yeah, I mean, basically, as Pete was saying, you can remove this from the machine. Obviously, yeah, you do have to be careful when removing it from the machine if you're not sure. I mean, I think it would be quite nice. I don't think we've got a video of how to do that, but if somebody does need to remove the machine from a frame, we normally do like a little video for them. We might even be able to find one we've done.
This, of course, is something that we do as standard when we do an on-site service anyway.
It is. It's being mindful of my main thing, and the reason why I wanted to mention this was the thread on the front cog and not leaving your bobbin thread dangling. Dangling bobbin thread.
Right.
Let's turn our attention now to maintenance on the machine itself. So here we've got a Moxie, and imagine that you've been sewing for a while. You want to have a little clean out and make sure it's all working as you'd expect. Now, what happens if you don't clean it? I mean, why do we clean it? And the reason is that thread and oil buildup can form quite hard bits that can interfere with your tension. And we do know that tension is a big issue if you have erratic tension, because it's really frustrating if you have to unpick. So we really want to do anything that we can. And by keeping your machine nice and clean and well oiled, every time you change the bobbin, you're going to oil it. But equally, if you keep it well maintained by taking this top plate off, which I'm going to show you in just a second, then it will prolong and maintain the quality and life of your machine. So we recommend it. Getting familiar with your machine is not something to be scared about. Okay, I'm just going to take out the needle. So just loosen that off and remove the needle. And then I'm going to take the foot off so that I can get access. There we go. You can use a long handle screwdriver or a short stubby one. It doesn't really matter. On some of the machines, they're sort of like this. On others, you've got these two flat head screws holding this in place are over here and here. So on this Moxie, you can just undo that. And this is going to give us access to the hook assembly and where the bobbin case is living right now. I haven't taken the bobbin case out yet, but we'll cover that after I've done this here. Let's just take the bobbin case out. We'll come back to that, as I say. Okay, so second screw, take that out. Now you can do this while the machine is on the frame. You don't have to remove it like we have here. So just take it to one side where you can easily remove the needle and the foot, and then you can get access to this. You might want to put the channel locks on the wheels so that you're not continually battling with it moving to the back of the frame. So let's just take this off. Now this is pretty clean. It's extremely clean actually. Now what you'll find is if this has been used, you'll have a whole load of fluff, depending on the lintiness of the thread you were using, and mixed with oil. So you need to have a tissue or some old wadding that you can just remove that with. You'll also find that there's lots of fluff and dust and everything in this bit here. Okay, so you'd get rid of that. Now let's just have a look at what we're looking at here. So I'm just going to use a screwdriver to point out a few things for you. So what we see here is the hook assembly. This is a single item that is supplied that goes onto the shaft of the machine, but it's made up of a couple of components, a couple main components. In this machine, it's really much easier to see because this is black and this one has got a silver to it. So this here, this silver outer, is moving around the fixed black inner, which is what your bobbin case goes into. So the outer, which is here, and in this case it has made in Japan on it, is actually where the hook is rotating. So this hook, all this bit is held in place with these screws. Do not remove them yourself. Even if you've got a really nice eyeglass screwdriver set, we recommend that you don't remove them yourself. Okay, so keep turning, Pete. You turn. And if you're at the back turning the hand wheel, Pete will be turning the hand wheel towards him from the right-hand side of the machine. And this is just showing if you pause it when you get the hook at the top. Okay, stop there. Right, can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So this bit here, this sharp bit pointing towards me, pointing to where my screwdriver is the hook. Okay, so good afternoon and welcome to Pinhole Quilting, part 2 of our Facebook Live. So apologies if you're wondering where we got to, but there was just a very slight touch of the screen which resulted in ending of live broadcast. So apologies about that. I'm hoping that you'll find it and I'll edit it to join the two together.
Sorry about that. I was obviously a bit clumsy. And the finish button is right where I happened to just knock the screen.
I didn't say you were clumsy, Pete.
I know.
Okay. I
I'm
was being
admitting
really
to it.
polite. Okay, so this, where I was pointing out, this is the hook, just where the end of my little red oiler is. Yeah, maybe move it into the light a bit. There you go. So there, that's the hook. So what happens is the hook is taken around and basically it brings that top thread and bobbin thread together so that it forms a stitch. And you can watch little GIFs of this online. How is a stitch formed? You might even Google it. This thing here, this is called the stop finger, and this is basically stopping this from rotating. And some people can sometimes hear this noise when their machine is sewing. It's just that movement of the stop finger. It's nothing untoward. So get your brush and get rid of, this is so clean. Has anybody come online again?
Yes, a few people have found us again. So
how many did we lose? Did we lose thousands of people, Pete?
now they're all creeping up again. So
hello, everybody.
Helen,
you found us. We tried to hide, but you found us.
Helen Wycherley says lol, and Helen Burnham says, I don't know if this is a little bit tongue in cheek, Helen. Oh dear, just when it was getting exciting.
I love it. I love it. We were just at the really, really exciting moment, then suddenly it all went quiet. Yeah, I bet you were just waiting with bated breath for what happened when I got the oiler out with the red end on it.
We do try and confuse you, don't we?
Exactly.
Sorry. No, it's not intentional, really.
No, but you know, it just shows the determination of our customers if there's anybody who comes back online for part 2.
The dangers of live video.
Yeah. So with a brush, we have spare brushes. If yours has got a bit mucky, just get a new brush and do this in here. And you can use on some machines like the Moxie, Amara, and the Infinity, you can use canned air to get into other bits like this and through here. So just remove all of the lint if you can, and then you're going to put a dot of oil in this area here. Do you want a light or anything, Pete? Not sure I've got a light. Did you want a light?
No, it's okay.
Okay. I wanted to show here.
It's not very easy to access that with the camera.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. I've got an idea. Let's show
if
you.
This machine here.
No, but let's show you where you oil from the top.
Yes.
So while you've got this top open, we are trying to get oil between the black part, which might be silver on your machine, and the outer silver bit. I'm just getting a bit too much oil here, but you put a dot of oil between these two. Okay, that is where you're trying to lubricate, because you want it to be as smooth as possible, and then you're going to turn your machine wheel at the back and just distribute that oil. And what that's going to do is keep it beautifully lubricated, so you never need a new hook. You don't want to buy a new hook. They're not cheap, and you might as well keep it going as long as possible. Then we put that back and put our screws back in place. So the final thing after I put this back in place is to show you the bobbin case. And just look at that. I'll put that back afterwards. Where's the bobbin case? Because I'm just aware of time. Right, bobbin case. There are various types of bobbin case in terms of the manufacture of bobbin case and the bobbin backlash springs, but they all work interchangeably. So if you've bought a bobbin case separately to your machine to have a spare, and it's one of ours, the Surliani or the Koban, or one of the newer ones, I don't know what the brand is, which is a Chinese one. They all work. They're an M-size bobbin case. They have a backlash spring inside. So this is the backlash spring, this blue sprung steel inside. Older versions have just a very simple U-shape backlash spring, and they don't operate in quite the same way. We prefer the newer style. We find that this backlash spring works really well. There is a separate bobbin backlash spring and bobbin maintenance video that Pete has. Just search for it on our YouTube channel. But what you want to do, I mean, shall I just show how I would pop it out and just clean underneath it? Yeah? Shall I do that? So we've got a very clean bobbin case here, but say it wasn't, and you'd got a whole load of lint underneath it. I just used my screwdriver and I'm just going to pop this out so that, there we go, there's the backlash spring.
It can fall out by itself sometimes. So.
And I'd get my brush and get in there, or just with a piece of tissue.
Question from Sassenach Quilting, Helen.
Hello, Helen.
Is there an oiler pen that doesn't drip?
Well, this one's pretty good.
I found them all a little bit drippy.
Yeah, they are a bit drippy, Helen.
Yeah, this one's quite good.
This one's pretty good. I've got a little bit of a bent tip on that.
Yeah.
But this one, I mean, I can get much more precise with this one. These are the same price on our website as this one, which is the standard hand quilter one. So you'll see the quantity of oil is quite different.
Yeah, but they last an enormous amount of time
they
anyway.
They do, and you could refill that into there.
So this fine-tipped one is called a needle point oiler. So if you search on our website, you'll find that.
Okay.
If you'd like to try that one.
And once we've got our bobbin backlash spring out, as I say, we do that. And then we're looking at the outside spring now. Before I put that one back, I'm just going to show you the outside spring. It's held in place with this tiny little screw here, but the bigger of the two is what we adjust for the tension. So you'll be familiar with that, hopefully. But this is where we get into issues. If there's any lint underneath here, we can just move a business card underneath like this, and you might find some lint pops out. So just actually a good corner on the business card is a bit easier than these nice rounded corner ones. But this is our business card. And you don't want to use a pin. Do not use a pin underneath that spring. It is not good for the spring. When you put this back in, and you'll see it on the video that Pete's done, that you need to find the little lugs and make sure that they are situated inside the little slots on the outside of the bobbin case. The slots vary by manufacturer, but in essence you want it to sit so that the backlash spring does not foul the area where, there we go, you want it to make sure that this area here, that there's no backlash spring interfering with this area here. And if you put it in and then just check that it's in properly, if you pull on it, I'm just doing this, I've made sure that the little lugs are situated in the little slots on the side. Okay, then we can put our bobbin back in and we would do a bobbin drop test.
And how do you know if you've got your bobbin in the right way around? Because this is something we commonly see as well.
It is. Now, what you do is you put it in so that the thread comes off to the right. Okay. Now, that's all well and dandy, but sometimes people then somehow flip it and then put it in upside down. So let's put it in, and what happens is if you pull on it, it rotates clockwise.
That's correct.
So we know that that's the right way round. As Pete said, it's correct. If it were going the other way around, you put it in the wrong way around. Simple.
The machines are very tolerant, actually. If you put the bobbin in the wrong way around, it still works.
It does.
Just won't get quite as consistent a stitch.
We went and saw a customer, Pete, didn't we? And she'd had it the wrong way around for a year and was still able to stitch.
Yes.
I wouldn't say it was the best stitch, but it was a stitch and it was fine. But we wouldn't recommend it. There we go. That is maintenance. Are we done? Or should we do the tension spring? I was going to...
No, it's up to you.
Should we do that
You're
as
the
well?
boss.
Could do, couldn't we? So a lot of people... Because actually that came up with Pauline.
You did.
Okay. Just going to move this a bit more. Okay. So the tension on the top here, can you see it with this, Moxie?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Sometimes people get worried that they've got a lot of fluff in the tension spring area. Now the tension spring, not tension spring, it's a tension spring.
Tension assembly.
Tension assembly. If you feel like you've got a lot of lint in this area, you can take it apart and put it back together again. Okay, it's not difficult to do, but there is a danger of doing so that you put it back in the wrong order. Don't do that. Take a picture before you take it apart. So this is a little knob. This applies to all the machines except for the Infinity. Then when you take the next little disc off, you'll have it either with the ridge side on the outside, if you have no tension number, or you have it on the smooth side if you have a tension number. In other words, if on the display it has a number, numeric, did you know that? Glenn told me that.
That's news to me.
Glenn Salter, who used to run Handy Quilter Technical Support, told me this. So it's straight from the horse's Glenn's mouth. So yeah, because I asked him. That smooth side is for the ones that have a number.
Okay.
And then we've got the spring. Then we've got this inner, like a little disc that keeps everything together. And note that there are two ways around that can be. So it has a concave and a convex side. So we just take that apart. Put the convex, don't drop it. And then take that one out. And you're left with just a little spring. Okay, so then you can, that spring, do not do anything to the spring, but I've got a whole load of fluff around that spring. Wow, okay.
Karen, yes, you say there's so much to remember. I mean, these are things that we're mentioning just because they're some of the maintenance issues we see when we go traveling. To be honest, there's nothing to be scared of here. These are straightforward things, but if you have an issue, this might be helpful as a reference.
Exactly. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. So these two tension discs, they face each other, okay, with the bit that sticks out.
Convex.
Thank you. Just wanted to involve Pete. Convex. Yeah. And these can get, obviously they can have a little bit of lint, but they don't tend to get problems really. All I do when we do the maintenance and everything, it's one of the steps we do, is just check the spring is moving properly as it is, and then I just polish those up. Put them back in so that they face each other, and then you put that back so that, again, it's the convex side inward, and then put the spring back on, put this back on depending on whether you have a tension readout, and then this, most important thing with this, it's a split bolt, you've just got to make sure you don't cross thread it. So wind it back and wait until you hear a little click to say that you've got on the first bit of the thread. My dad taught me that many years ago. I'm sure everybody else knows it, but there we go. And then you're going to get it. Now, we could give people an approximation of how many turns. It's usually all the way in back 6 or 7, isn't it? I would do it until it feels firmish. About halfway. About halfway. Okay. So once you've got it back in, you'll just want to thread it up and test it. What I do hope that I have not done by giving you this information is created a whole load of people taking their tension assemblies apart and then emailing us going, I can't get it back together again. So please do watch my video very carefully as to how you do it and put it back in the same order. All right. That is everything on maintenance that I think you might want to do. We can do the same, the carriage wheels, we're going to do the same with these wheels as well. We just get tissue or piece of wadding and we clean these as well. Anything else, Pete? Any questions that have come up? Anybody going, well, I didn't know about that. This isn't like the maintenance we've just shown you today. The tension and taking this stitch plate off, gosh, I mean, I'd probably do that once a year and I probably do that once every 2 months. These aren't major, like, do it every time you do a quilt things at all, okay? Do it, but if you now know how to do it, then that means that if you notice it's very linty, you'll know what to do. So I hope that's been helpful. Look out for the news that we're going to be announcing about additional products that we're going to have, and we look forward to seeing you at the Malvern Quilt Show. If you're visiting, do come along and say hi. Come and try out the Moxie XL, and we've got some special offers as well, which we'll be emailing about for people who've got Avantes and Simply 16s. We've got a really special offer for you if you're looking to go computerized. Pete, do you want to talk about that? Did you want to talk about that? I thought we were going to talk about that. So Pete goes, no, we weren't.
Well, you've just been talking about it. I'm not sure what I've got to add, really.
Okay, we've got a very special offer. If you're interested in going computerized on the Avanti or Simply 16, email us or call us and we'll tell you more.
It is a very good offer. So if you've been put off previously by the price of Pro Stitcher Premium for your Simply 16 or your Avanti,
now is the time.
Now is the time. It's a limited time offer, and we've managed to participate with a handy quilter offer that they have in the States, so we can also offer very good discounts.
Yeah. So it's pretty exciting, and I think for anybody who's been sitting on the fence, now is the time to find out more, and just send us an email and we'll send you the details. I'll be emailing out specifically to those customers with those machines with more details as well. Okay, that is everything for today, I think. I hope that everybody has a lovely bank holiday weekend. It's bank holiday here in the UK, and in line with most bank holidays, on the 1st May bank holiday, it's raining and it's really cold and the forecast is horrible. So it's a great weekend to hop on your quilting machine, get long arm quilting and finish those quilts, because we will be getting sunshine and you will not want to go onto your quilting machine when it's beautiful outside and the garden needs doing. So with that in mind, happy quilting everybody, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Okay, bye.